Okay, so the 300th episode of Supernatural was on last night and I need to talk about it. So by the time you're saying this, it'll be nearly a week since the 300th episode came on.
Actually, it's been about 2 weeks. I didn't get a chance to edit this until now, and isn't that a nice face to stop on there? Nice freeze frame. Alright, back to regular programming.
But I need to talk about it because I just have so many feelings and I need to get them out. Before I start, I'm going to say that I'm going to be spoiling everything. I'm going to be talking about the full episode, and this episode is one you do not want to be spoiled for. It is so wonderful. It's just so great. So please, if you have not seen this episode, don't watch this video. Wait, go watch it. If you've never seen Supernatural before, go watch the entire show and come back and we can talk about it. But especially if you haven't seen this episode, please, please, I'm going to be spoiling it. Don't watch it. Come back after you've seen that episode and watch this video and we can talk about it together. So, going into this episode, I had the highest expectations for it because it's the 300th, they've been building it up, they had this big party for it, and I was just really anticipating this. And because I had those high expectations, I was honestly expecting to be a little disappointed just because my expectations were so high, not because of anything on their end. I knew they would do a wonderful job, but I was just worried. And I was not let down. It's probably my favorite episode. I think it beat out my other two favorites. This episode might take the cake, or the pie rather. So this episode began kind of like any other episode. They were trying to find this object to help Dean with his whole Michael problem. And so they go into this pawn shop and ask to see kind of more of the hunter-esque items in the back. So they ask for this certain item, and through finding that item, see that this guy that owns the pawn shop or works in the pawn shop or whatever killed this other hunter to procure all of these items. So they fight with him really quickly and end up killing the guy, and they pack up all the items and put them in the Impala and are going around town kind of just getting some stuff together. They're in Lebanon. This episode's called Lebanon. They had a really funny line when Dean killed this guy of Dean goes, he just talked too much, and that was really funny because that's true in so many things. The villain will go on and that gives the hero time to escape or kill the villain or defeat them in some way. So I thought that was really funny that somebody addressed it. So while they're doing some other stuff around town and trying to figure out what to do with what they have and kind of what their next step is going to be, this girl who is trying to impress another girl steals the car. I know I'm a teenager, but I don't understand teenagers and why they do stupid stuff like that. It doesn't make sense to me. Like, what goes through your head to think that the way to impress somebody is to steal a car? It worked, but it was stupid because the car held all of those magical items, including the ghost of John Wayne Gacy, a creepy ass clown serial killer dude, and it got released. Now, I don't like clowns. I actually happen to hate clowns. I didn't have a problem with clowns before this show, but season 2, episode 2, Everyone Loves a Clown freaked me out, and I hate clowns now. So seeing the creepy clown hand come out of the box was not fun. So in the next scene, I'm hiding behind my blanket waiting for this clown to pop out. Fortunately, the clown was short-lived and was not there for the entire episode. So they get rid of the ghost. They tell the other kids, you know, we hunt monsters, did the whole speech, and they went back to the bunker with all of the stuff. So when they get back, they have this little pearl that is supposed to grant you your heart's desire. And so they're trying to use it to get Michael out of Dean's head because he's like, okay, logically that's my heart's desire. I want this guy out of my brain. And so they use it. Now, before this episode even started, earlier in the day, I was talking about how this is the 300th episode, and I was wondering, because in the preview it made it seem like something happened to where the last 14 years never happened and they were kind of living separate lives. They weren't hunting together. None of it had happened. So my thought was, okay, so all of the people who died aren't dead. You know, Lucifer never got out of the cage. John never faced off against Yellow Eyes. All this stuff that happened has now not. So I'm sitting here and I'm like, well, maybe John will come back because it's the 300th episode anniversary. I'm sure they can get him to come back. I'm sure he would love to come back for this, for the 300th episode, maybe for like a one-time thing. But at the same time, he hasn't been back since season 2, so I'm thinking, even though he'll probably want to come back, it's a little unlikely, and I was kind of going back and forth whether or not I thought he'd come back. And I called it, because the next scene pops up, and he uses the pearl, he wishes, there's a whole bunch of flashing lights, and you see this silhouette. They're kind of thrown on the floor. You see a shotgun and you hear somebody speak, and like, that's not Michael. That's not where we're going with this. And Dean says, "Dad." I screamed so loud. Well, I screamed when the clown popped out first. I screamed louder when this happened because it was so exciting to see John back again. I was freaking out. I was thinking about everything we needed to see with John before he probably has to go back, because I didn't think he was going to stick around, since in real life he is still on The Walking Dead. I didn't think he'd be coming back on the show permanently, or at least recurring. I thought this was probably going to be a one-time thing, and it was, unfortunately. But it was the most wonderful thing to get to see. So we come back from this annoyingly long commercial break, and they're sitting in the kitchen, they're explaining to him everything that's happened, you know, to a couple of apocalypses, they've saved the world, Lucifer, angels, they're living with an angel, Lucifer's son, everything, and it's just so funny. John's just like, alright, because throughout the years I've always been like, you know, what would John say about all this, you know, angels and them working with like a demon and like everything that's happened, what would be the reaction? I was always so curious, and it was so fun. And then you hear Mary's voice calling out for Dean or Sam or one of them. The look on John's face, because they're about to tell him, because he still thinks Mary's dead, and so they're about to tell him she's not, and he hears her voice. Oh, I almost started crying. It was so beautiful, and seeing the look on her face when she walks in and sees him sitting there. Oh, and I didn't know what the reaction would be, because he hasn't seen her in so long and he's been through so much, and she obviously hasn't seen him since she died, and has heard about him kind of being a kind of meh dad to them. So I was wondering what the reaction would be, and just seeing them being so sweet and instantly like in love again, it was just so beautiful. It was just, oh, I can't handle my emotions right now. I'm still like, it's the next day and I'm still like freaking out about it. Like, John came back, like I'm still I still know it's one of those things. I don't know if you have ever experienced this, where you're watching something, reading something, and something amazing happens, and then you just don't know how to move on with life after that. It's kind of like that. I don't know what to do with myself now. Anyway, so in like a next scene change or two, we see John and Sam, and they get to kind of have a talk, and Sam's talking about how long it's been since he actually had that fight with John, where he's saying he doesn't want to hunt, and they have this big like blow up fight. To John it's just like yesterday. To Sam it's been, let's see, 2003, it's been 16 years. John got back from 2003, so it's been like 16 years for Sam since this happened. And they're just having this really nice moment where Sam's talking about how he doesn't think about all those fights and bad times. He just misses his dad and thinks about not getting to say goodbye all like way back when, and it was so heartbreaking, but it was so wonderful that you got to finally hear, because I always wondered, how does Sam feel about their dad now after everything? Because I know, you know how Dean feels, but how does Sam feel? And getting to see them have that conversation and kind of get it all out, and both of them get to understand how the other feels, was so wonderful, and just, oh, my heart. So then Sam and Dean leave to go back into town and get some stuff so they can have a nice family dinner, because they're kind of realizing, you know, they've brought Dad back from 2003. He can't probably stay, and they get to town and people have no idea who Dean is, even though he's constantly there. And, you know, at the beginning of this episode, this guy knew exactly who he was and gave him the usual, and now he has no idea. Sam is just getting a bunch of weird looks. People who knew him don't know who he is. And he's walking past a window and sees a wanted poster for Dean with that cheesy picture from like season 2 or 3. So the timeline has been totally screwed up. So Dean has looked them up, and this is probably the most hilarious part of the episode. So Sam became this really successful lawyer, and he did a TED Talk where he's talking about kale and how, you know, if you're successful, you don't necessarily need friends or family if you want that. And oh my god, it was so funny because he was wearing these glasses and he was kind of dressed like Steve Jobs. Oh, that was so funny. And then Dean is back to being wanted by the police like he was in season, I think it was 2. Or maybe that was 1. I can't remember. And it was just so funny, that part, kind of them realizing that they screwed up. But then it's instantly sad because they're realizing John has to go back. So then we change scenes and we see Zachariah show up with Cass, who we see is the old Cass who doesn't care about the Winchesters and just, you know, is kind of, he's the angel of the Lord. He does angel stuff. He's not their friend or anything like he is now. Zachariah, I screamed again because I was excited. I don't like Zachariah, but I will say, as horrible as he is, he has some hilarious lines, so I was excited to see some of those and get to hear some of his really funny lines again, and I was not disappointed. So Zachariah and Cass are there because somebody has screwed up the timeline, and they can tell the timeline has been screwed up, so they're trying to figure out what happened and what's going on and who messed up the timeline, who's been messing with time. So as they're like threatening people and trying to figure out what happens, you see Cass's wings, because of course this is a timeline where the angels didn't lose their wings, and you see like that really awesome angel moment with the glowing eyes and the cool wings. And Sam and Dean notice this and come running in and fight Zachariah and Cass. So we get to see Zachariah die again, which was really, really great. And then Dean is fighting Cass and, you know, trying to get him to remember, or, you know, be like, you know, we're friends, you know me, and to no avail. And you see Castiel like glow, and for a minute, and he disappears, and for a split second I'm like, what if that's Chuck? What if Chuck is back? Unfortunately, it was just Sam doing the little mark thing on the ground and hitting it to make the angels disappear. Really hoping that was Chuck. But it was a really cool fight scene anyway. I really enjoyed that, and getting to see kind of the old Cass and getting to see Zach die again. That was kind of a really cool interaction that they had. So then they get back to the bunker, and Dean is telling John that he has to go back because the timeline is all screwed up. And he's like, of course, you know, me or your mom, obviously, you know, you're gonna choose her. You have to choose her, you know, you have your mom back. And all of this, you can't, you know, change that just for me. I obviously have to go back. And we cut to a scene where Sam is telling Mary that he has to go back. And that was just so heartbreaking because, you know, she died and he has to spend all this time without her. Then he dies, she comes back and has, you know, he's gone. And it finally looks like they might get to be together again, and it just can't happen. And that was so heartbreaking. And seeing her face was so heartbreaking. I'm gonna say, for this episode, the acting was on point. Like, all the actors did so wonderfully. This was so, just, so good. I can't praise it enough. So then they sit down to have dinner, and it's really awkward and quiet, and John kind of speaks up and is like, you know what, we might as well enjoy this because this is the last time we're gonna get to spend together. We can sit here all quietly, or we can enjoy it. And we get these shots of them like laughing and telling stories and just really enjoying the time together, and it's so beautiful and heartbreaking. So then we move to where he has to go back. And so the thing is, with John leaving, he's not going to remember anything that's happened. So when he goes back, him coming to the future, getting to see Mary, talking to the boys, none of that is going to be remembered. Oh, and he is like holding hands with Mary, and he tells her a really beautiful goodbye, and that he loves her and that she loves him, and it's so beautiful. And then he tells the boys he's proud of them and hugs them and tells them he loves them, which is so sweet and heartbreaking because, you know, he didn't say that a lot before he died. And everyone is crying, and so they're holding hands, and he takes the pearl, puts it on the table, and smashes it with the bowl, and he glows a bit and disappears. And they're just kind of looking at each other and crying, and oh gosh. So next scene, you see Castiel come in, and they all kind of walk over to look at him, and he's just looking at them like Sam and Dean are all beat up from the fight, and everyone's crying, and he's just like, what happened? And Dean just says, you know, that's one hell of a story to tell. And the very last scene we get, we see the Impala, and we kind of zoom out, and we see a flip phone sitting on the dash. And you know, it's John sitting in the driver's seat, he's fallen asleep, and he wakes up from this call from Dean, and he says, yeah, I'm on my way, I just had the weirdest dream. You know, sometimes with dreams you wake up and like instantly forget, but I'm hoping this is one he wakes up and he remembers all of it. And so he doesn't remember it as being something real, but he does remember it as a dream, and so he'll keep that with him and have that in his mind. And that's just so wonderful that he, even though he doesn't remember it, did get to see Mary and the boys. And oh, this episode just wrecked me. I want to go watch it again and again. This has definitely been one of the best episodes of the entire show. It was so well written, well acted, everything was so well done and so emotional, and answered so many questions I've always had, like what would John think of this, or what would happen if John and Mary saw each other again, or if John got brought back on the show, what would that look like? And I've always, ever since he left the show, and especially since Mary came back, been having like these questions and wondering and picturing what it would be like, and I was not disappointed. This episode's so good. And I really wanted to talk about it, not only to discuss with people who have also seen it, hopefully people are like watching this video and being able to hear, you know, somebody else talk about it, but I also want this to look at in the future and be like, here's how I reacted to everything that happened, because oh my god, oh my Chuck. I think in the future I'll probably be doing more videos about Supernatural, maybe not on an episode to episode basis, but maybe seasonal reviews. I'm probably going to do a rewatch at some point, so I can do like season reviews. Maybe certain episodes I'll do discussions, but that's definitely something I will do on this channel because it's my favorite show of all time. I love talking about it, watching it, and I don't know a lot of people who watch this show, so I would love to talk about it and talk to others who know it. So I don't know how often they'll be showing up or how often I'll do stuff related to Supernatural, but it'll be here, so subscribe if you want to see more about Supernatural. I also talk about books a lot on this channel, so subscribe if you want to hear about that. And all of my information is in the description below if you want any of it, social media, all that stuff. This has just been, it was such a, and this episode was just so wonderful. I can't talk about it enough. It was like an emotional roller coaster. It was so great, and I just, oh man. I don't know how to feel. I don't know how to live. How do I life now? Alright, that's gonna be it. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!